For more analysis on artificial intelligence, we're joined from Paris by the CEO of QW Capital, Mr. Gianluca Lobefalo. Mr. Lobefalo, welcome to the Economic News Bulletin. How do you assess the risk that artificial intelligence could exacerbate the economic divide between developed and developing countries, as highlighted by the UNDP? What policies might best mitigate this risk?
Yeah, good evening. Obviously, it is a concern, but it's a bit too early to assess because we don't really know what would be the impact on one side on productivity, so the gain in productivity with the real application large scale of AI, and consequentially, what would be the impact of different distribution of wealth among different level of society. So if these increase or decrease inequality. What we know for sure is that in the last 15 years, we had an increase in this inequality due to this financial support policy, particularly literally what all the QE intervention, particularly after 2012 by central bank. That we know for sure. In terms of AI, it's still very difficult. Yes, you can claim that developed country will have access to allow their citizens to more direct access to AI application. And so you can claim that that would increase the gap between developed and developing country. But I think it's a bit too early. I see the warning. I see why United Nations has to issue this warning, but I wouldn't develop too much on that because there are too many unknown on AI and AI application and contribution to development of the economy in any segment.
With hedge funds increasing their exposure to AI-related semiconductor and hardware companies, how might this investment trend reshape global tech dominance and influence the emerging markets outside China?
I mean, let's take one step back. Clearly, AI has an incredible future that will be, in theory, improving and change our life, as it was the case for the internet. Now, the idea that this is a long-term process, and this definitely something that we can already quite confidently arguing that is going to have an incredible impact on everyday's life, as was the case for internet, or even more. Now, the idea that we look at short-term indicator like position of hedge funds, so I run hedge funds, so I know what it means. This is a very short-term indicator. So the fact that there's been an increase in allocation, there's been a strong momentum that has been the main force behind the last 24 months of market rally, market bullishness. It's good, but doesn't necessarily imply that we're going to see a long-term impact. The long-term impact is much more infer from the real implication on the real day life. So I wouldn't necessarily extrapolate based on the hedge fund short-term position.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Future of Life Institute warns that AI firms lack robust strategies amid growing public concern. So how critical is it, the regulatory oversight for AI development?
I mean, the regulatory is fundamental, even because we may have to face a moral issue. And so clearly the right framework, I mean, I quite agree with what the European Union has been doing is trying to be the first one to really try to give a set of norms or to have a proper legal structure, because otherwise it's very easy to get on the wrong direction. But again, at the moment we're talking about something that we are sensing, we are starting to have the feeling of what the implication would be, but we don't really know what are the eventual the real day-to-day implications. So it's very difficult to. We all know there is a need for a regular framework, that a legal framework, that's for sure. But we don't know yet exactly what kind of shape this has to take. We have to start thinking about, so the European Union is a kind of a head start versus other economic area, call it US or China, where there is a much more emphasis on the start to build from day one a legal framework. That is a given. But again, the object that we are trying to regulate is not very clear yet.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Lobefalo, how do corporate lobbying efforts by major US AI companies impact the adoption of binding safety standards? What role should governments play in balancing innovation with public safety?
I mean, that has always been the case from the telecom company, from the internet company, internet era. We obviously have the company who are running the most advanced technology application that obviously have a power and the means, financial means to influence through lobbying the regulator framework in their favor. And obviously, we need to have the government who has to really find the right balance that is extremely difficult. Again, I'm seeing the role playing in the US much more evident than on the other side of the pond. So here in Europe, where I think we are trying to strike, even though we can claim that we are behind the curve in terms of technological development, I have to say that from a legal framework, we have a head start on this side. Yeah.
Well, what about Google's commitment to prioritizing AI safety and XAI's dismissal of criticism? How do divergent corporate approaches affect trust, accountability in AI development?
I mean, the problem with the AI development companies is that there is a risk that this company have such a high concentration of power and influences. So obviously, the government has to try to take a step back and try to see how we can strike a balance between technology advancement that is necessary. Think about the implication of AI application on medical diagnosis. I was looking at the research a few days ago. They were showing, they actually did a test in which they were trying to see what were the impact 5 years ago of the first AI application. I took 5 years back on diagnosis on some kind of tumor, and they realized that even 5 years ago, going 5 years forward, they basically had a much better performance, the best analyst, doctor analyst at the time. And we are talking about AI application of 5 years ago. So there are field, particularly of diagnosis in medical field, where we cannot any longer thinking on not to use AI. So that is a reality. But again, we cannot not regulate at the moment, even with tough choice.
Because we're running out of time, I have to ask this question. Now, beyond the economic inequality, what are the broader social and ethical implications of the rapid AI adoption frenzy globally? How can the international cooperation address these challenges effectively then?
We have to consider the fact that there will be a big change in the job workforce requirement. So there will be a barrier that will be increased in terms of minimum skills required. But then we have to think about what the other people, they will still have to go and eat. They still have to send their kids to school. So the government has to decide what to do. I'm not saying that to go towards a universal salary, but they definitely have to consider that there will be part of the society that eventually won't be involved in the future job architecture. That is an issue. So that's a complicated issue to deal with.
From Paris, that was the CEO of QW Capital, Mr. Gianluca Lo Befalo. Mr. Lo Befalo, thank you very much for your insights.